All right, what is up, you guys? Sage here. I'm CEO, founder of Legacy Africa, and I've read over 50 business books, watched thousands of hours of podcasts, countless interviews, and here are four lessons that I got from those that I think about every week. Most of the stuff I saw, watched, read, useful, not life changing. Here are a few things that were life changing for me. Okay. So, first and foremost, let's give some honorable mentions to some books that I hear mentioned a lot that weren't necessarily life changing for me, which I'll name one. Think and Grow Rich for me wasn't necessarily life changing. Um, Outwitting the Devil, those types of things weren't necessarily life changing for me because I came from a sports background, I came from a gym background. So, I religiously watched your Tony Robbins, your Eric Thomas, your like you name it, and then I've Ben Lionel Scott channel on YouTube. I revisited often Machiavelli motivation, Nicandro Vision motivation. So I very very much believed in myself. That wasn't the limiting factor for me. For me, it was practical knowledge on how to action and what to action. So that didn't make the list for me, and or those types of books. Don't expect to hear about those. um, Honorable mention, things that should have made the list but didn't really. Um, Robert Kiyosaki is Rich Dad Poor Dad specifically. Read that book. In fact, no, I'm lying. Rich Dad Poor Dad is not what changed my life. There was a book called The Business of the 21st Century. That was the first business book that I ever read. That book changed my life because that book contained the things from it was a sequel to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it contained the things like the lessons, obviously, the upbringing, all that good stuff, as well as the cash flow quadrant. um, those types of things definitely changed my beliefs around money and understanding what money is, how it works, especially the concept of the cash flow quadrant, where you have your self-employment and your employees on one side, you have business ownership and investors on the other side, and how we all want to end up in the investor quadrant in one way or another, as well as understanding the difference between self-employment and business ownership. Introducing the concept to me that there were differences between those things and really understanding, that was my first step towards true financial literacy. So I will always give um, Rob Kiyosaki his flowers. I'll always give Rich Dad Poor Dad, and specifically for me, Business of the 21st Century, its flowers. And many many more. But without further ado, let's actually get into the nitty gritty of the four lessons that really I took, and that practically changed my life and the way that I approach things that I think about every day. First of all, the goat, man. Alex Ramosi, honestly, really really practically changed my life. There is another guy that I'm going to talk about later that was, if you think of Alex as the arithmetic teacher, the guy who taught me how to do um, very complex equations, this other guy would be my math teacher. Just because my arithmetic teacher um, told me how to do more complex things and apply the skills that I got from here, doesn't mean that math wasn't important. Because I had math, I was able to recognize the value in arithmetic and be able to do algebra. So Alex Hormozy, man, the goat. Um, the business skills, like actually how to craft an offer, how to let people know about your stuff, how to monetize people knowing about your stuff. Those basics, like applying that stuff, is what genuinely led me to make my first 1,000 rand in business. You know what I'm saying? And every 1,000 rand after that came very specifically, very practically. Like the audience I've built across the different platforms was very practically, tactically. He said, post this many times on this platform, and this platform. And he always talks about one channel, one avatar, one, which I don't think I listened, or I don't think I paid much attention to that because I kind of had my own plans. Um, but I do understand the value of that. And listen, practically within my business, 100,000% I'm focused on one channel, focus on one avatar, one customer, because that's how you get to your your first million that I'm yet to touch, but like ridiculously transformative in terms of the things that it has done for me. You know, particularly let's actually delve into the $100 million series. Absolutely ridiculous. The most valuable thing that you could possibly get as a practical tool you can apply to your daily life in this bloody thing is something called the value equation. Now, the value equation of memory, it is your dream outcome, your perceived likelihood of achievement divided by effort and sacrifice, time delay, or time delay and effort and sacrifice, depending on which way you want to put it around. You add the things on top, add the things on the bottom, and the higher the top is, or more practically, the lower you can make the bottom, the lower you can make time delay, the lower you can make effort and sacrifice, the more valuable you can make something. You know, things like defining terms. Now, this was definitely something that I did without knowing it before, even in terms of my writing. You know, I was a very well-known essay writer back in my day, and I would always start by defining what certain terms meant to me, or define my perspective on something, and then start breaking down the idea. So I start telling you what the thing is, what I believe it is, why I think it's important to talk about it right now, and then I get into it. And I was always very highly credited for that. Um, and yeah, so in terms of just doing that consistently, in terms of just having these very very practical skills, is something that I will definitely always like praise the dude for. So the value equation looks something like that. Dream outcome, perceived likelihood, time delay, effort and sacrifice is equal to value. And so that is something very practical about like defining terms, and the concept of defining terms consistently before you get into them is a very very important lesson that he reminds me of consistently. Even small ideas like we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. You know, those little nuggets are definitely things that I will forever value from Alex Ramosi in general. And that equation, and even the concept of how to make offers so good people feel stupid saying no, is something that I consistently think about in terms of, okay, like, you know, providing value, even understanding money, what it is. Um, and that it's not about anything besides an exchange of value. And if I give you value and you do nothing for me in return, the only thing that we have all accepted as in exchange for that is money. That's all that it is. It's just all about value and your ability to exchange it. $100 million leads, how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff, to want to buy your stuff. So not necessarily how to get them to buy it, but how to get them to want to buy it. It's just shifting from that. And then $100 million money models. I don't have the physical copy. I did listen to the audio version of that. Um, but literally breaking down and making very practical what to do, which I needed. That was transformative for me. Like I was like, okay, I want to do it. I'm as motivated as, you know what I'm saying? And motivated as I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do everything and anything that is, legal and within my morals in order to get to where I want to go. And I just didn't know what to do. And that was the first source of truth that really told me exactly what to do. Again, no disrespect to this other very prominent figure, because what they gave me was very important in order for me to even discover and be able to apply. And in order to have those work ethics and those core values that allowed me to apply that, I needed the guy who comes later on, you know. And so very, very big for me to understand, like, most businesses don't have marketing problems. They have an offer problem. If people don't know about you, they can't buy your stuff. If people don't want it, more traffic won't save you, you know. And business became a lot simpler after I realized a lot of Alex's lessons, and continue to apply them within my life. Like, and that's the most important thing, is to kind of even know that you're doing the right things. It's just going to take time. He's kind of a source of truth where I'm like, okay, no, I'm still doing the right thing. Okay, I'm still headed in the right direction, which is actually very important, because there are so many points of uncertainty within entrepreneurship, that to kind of at least be know that you're directionally correct is invaluable, ridiculously valuable. Um, Lesson two was from Naval Ravikant, the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Now, I'm not just talking about the books that I have in physical copy. As you've heard, I don't know where my physical copy of the Business of the 21st Century is. I may have gifted it to someone. I did. I gifted it to one of my best friends for his 21st birthday. Now that I recall. So I'm not only talking about the things that I have in physical copy, you will see now later on, but this happens to be one of the ones I do have in physical. That is the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. From Naval, I will I will sum it up. Okay, on page 139, it literally has the line, "Success does not earn happiness," and from him it was the skill of happiness, like really turning happiness into a skill. Um, because it is one thing to win at business, it is another completely to win at life. And for me, it was important not only to win in, like there are very practical things here about what to do. So we talked about why to do. The guy later on told me why to do, or taught me the skill of finding out my why. And then from there, so yeah, it's very interesting. So the motivation stuff talks about when the why is powerful, the how is easy, etc. Those types of concepts. Like if you have a why, if you know your why, your purpose, move towards your purpose, this, that, the third, like those things that fire you up. But then you start asking questions like, yeah, my purpose," and you're like, what is my purpose? So the guy later on in the video taught me how to find why. Um, Alex taught me uh, how to, um, and then Naval was about what to for you and why that's important. Um, and I'll sum everything I've learned from Naval in one sentence that he said on a podcast as well. Like I said, also not just the books, Thousands of Hours of podcast. He said, "If you're so smart, why aren't you happy? If you're so smart, why don't you have what you want?" He said, to quote him directly, "The only true measure of intelligence is getting what you want." Again, going back to, if you're so smart, why aren't you happy? If you're so smart, why don't you have what you want? And therefore, not to listen to people who don't have what they want. One, don't listen to people who don't have what they want. Two, don't listen to people who don't have what you want. And learned this from Alex, but it was also derived from some of Naval's stuff, which was, in terms of who to listen to, people who've gotten what you want, people who have gotten what you want for other people who've gotten what you want for other people who are like you. And if you find someone with all three of those things, those are the kind of people that you really want to listen to. And so the very important element about this, figuring out what you want. And so you can see how some of these things are stepping stoned and then were introduced to my life in a certain order that was good for me, that worked for me. I don't know if it would work for you in that order necessarily, or they weren't really introduced in my life in that order. But this is an order that you may introduce these things in your life that could work for you, because these are, again, those key trigger points. And now that I know these things, it allows me to revisit a blue ocean strategy, or even not necessarily that I haven't revisited it, but I have heard the concept post knowing these things and understood, like, oh, that's what they mean. That's what they meant. Oh, when they talked about doing this and doing, like, they told you what to do, but it's very impractical to read and understand blue ocean strategy when you don't know and have no experience of what a red ocean is. And you can hear about these concepts, man, but it's very, very important to do so that you can kind of have a different perspective and context of what is actually being spoken about. um, Naval, happiness. If you're so smart, why aren't you happy? Very, very important. Peace as a skill. Wealth without peace is failure. Success without enjoyment is failure. That's why I last week, again, completely unrelated. I hadn't really thought about or talked about that type of stuff, or thought about Naval in within that video. But I did talk about that the only true success is enjoying yourself on a daily basis while you're building something that you feel is worth building. So that is the short term fulfillment, medium term fulfillment, and long term fulfillment, all in one thing, which is the pursuit of your purpose. And how do you know it's your purpose? Well, if you're doing something that you enjoy doing, is good for you, is good for your community, is good for your nation, and God would approve, or whatever forces you believe in or spirits you believe in would approve of what you're doing, that creates a different type of and a different level of fulfillment. And that's what true success is, not the accolades. And people make the mistake of thinking, man, if I chase this thing, when I get it, then I'll be happy. It's like, no. Why put a space between you and your happiness? You'll never get it. And as soon as you put a space between you and your happiness, you will never get it. So such important life lessons like that, Naval Ravikant. The point of winning isn't to spend your life miserable. This guy right here, this is the guy that told me the initial thing that gave me the building blocks. After I was motivated, that gave me that kind of work ethic edge, and then a belief in systems, a belief in reading books, a belief in self education, a belief in kind of making my own way, carving my own path. I got from this guy. Um, was really, really massively transformative in my own life. That's PBD, Patrick Bet David. Beta meaning house of Bet, from Beta meaning house of David. A Syrian here, a numbers guy. But people who, if you have ever been a fan of Patrick Bet David, or if you've ever seen a Patrick Bet David comment section, you'll know what I'm a numbers guy means. Um, the skill he taught me was direction. He has a book, Your Next Five Moves. I haven't read the book, but I have seen every piece of content he has ever put out on the topic of money, on the topic of business. I've seen every podcast he's been on, every podcast he's hosted someone else on, that I also found. So for example, like Kobe, The Rock, um, I've seen him on Tom. I've seen him on. Has he been on Diary of a CEO? I don't. Maybe. I don't know. I saw him recently on Jack Neal. I've seen, like, if there's a new piece of content that I think is interesting, that has Patrick Bet David now context. If it's a podcast, for example, about insurance, there is one that I watched recently. I didn't really find that very valuable or practical, again, for me, because of the topics that I'm interested in hearing him talk about. And I've drifted away from his stuff more recently because he's very, politics heavy and stuff like that. So I still watch every single one, because again, that should let you know the undying loyalty that he's gotten from me, and the reason why he's gotten that undying loyalty is because he taught me the skill of direction, man. That, like, most people focus on tactics, he focuses on vision, strategy, and the clearer the destination, the easier it becomes to actually action on those things. You can't make a good move if you don't know what game you're playing. Man, Patrick Bet David taught me work ethic. He taught me the bare bones. Like, he made being a millionaire possible mathematically. Like, he was my first experience being Excel rich. You know what Excel rich means? Being Excel rich means when you, or rich on paper is what I'm trying to say. So literally, there was a book of mine, like a counter book. You open it up, you have your pen there, and he made it practical. Like, yo, listen, if you have, again, 250 people at 5,000 rand each, million. If you have, so you need this many people working for you, this many eight, boom, boom, boom. Like, literally, just from a mathematical perspective. And I looked at it and I was like, oh man, it won't be easy. Don't get me wrong, it won't be, but from a numbers perspective, being a numbers guy, if I look at the numbers, this is possible. It's really, really possible. It's just going to take a shit ton of work. And for me, that is what I needed. So I had the motivation, like I said, from that background to know that it's possible, to know that books were the answers, education was the answer. For me, self education was, because you can't learn entrepreneurship in a classroom. I'm sorry. You have to be boots to the ground, figuring it out, making the mistakes. And I did for years, like years and years and years. But like the knowing that you will go through that, and like you will fail many, many times, and you will kind of go through those hiccups and what, like, he was kind of my first dose of that, the realism within entrepreneurship without necessarily just glorifying it. It was the practical side of, listen, this is what it is. It's sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and understanding that really gave me the perspective of, okay, it's going to be a dogfight, but it's possible. It's going to be a dogfight, but it's not an impossible dogfight. And I cannot lose if I do not quit. Like literally those principles where, like, literally practically mathematically any service business can be collapsed back down to the individual who started the service. Any service business. So can can you fail? Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, can you actually fail? If the worst case scenario is you can downscale, you can make the wrong move and be forced to downscale. That's possible. But if you still have a pulse and you still believe in what you're doing, and you know that if you keep going, it's going to happen for you and you'll be able to rebuild, you can't fail. So, and that's definitely, I learned that from Patrick first. I learned what to do in terms of read the books, listen to the podcast, like that's the what to do that I learned from him, which is like, listen, here's what to learn. Like, literally, he talked about the specific topics to learn. If you want to be good, you need to learn about people, hence books like Crucial Conversations, you know Crucial Conversations, books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, books like um, 48 Laws of Power, books like the 33 Strategies of War, books like, you name it, man. All that was all him. He's the guy who got me into entrepreneurship, really. So that's why there's just this undying fealty, bro, and loyalty that I will always have. Because it's like, man, but again, where would I be if that guy gave up? If that guy, yeah, if that guy quit, where would I be? So yeah, PBD, man. PBD taught me math. He taught me basic math, um, so that I could one day learn arithmetic. He taught me how to crawl, then taught me how to walk. I mean, it's been a long, long ongoing journey. Even now, like I said, I always I always revisit his stuff. I always support his stuff. So it's an ongoing thing. But he definitely taught me how to crawl and walk so that I could equip myself with the skills that would allow me to run. Um, yeah, forever, man. Oh, that guy, absolutely everything. PBD. Direction. Lesson 4. This was from Saint-Peter Blanche. Saint-Peter Blanche made a book called Lost in Transformation. This book right here. South Africa's search for a future since 1986. This book, not much of a book, right? Not a very thick thing. Not necessarily like just a book for the sake of having many words. And I don't necessarily agree with all his takes and all his insights, but I learned my own history from this. Some of South Africa's history. These are the type of things that I believe should be in school. Like we know everything there is to know about Hitler, World War II. You know, the heroes, villains. As you know, the story is always told by the victor, right? But this book right here taught me why things are the way they are, um, from a place of understanding, man, sympathy. Some more practical, tactical things that I can pass on right now. Why the BE exists, how it's misused. Why you always hear about, Mandela's a sellout, Mandela's, but like, why? Why do people say that? Why do people think that? This very, really practically put me again, boots to the ground. Like, yo, listen, this here's and the way I took it, the way I read it. Again, I'm not talking about yo, I endorse everything that was said in that book. Here's the way that I read it. I read it in terms of you filter yourself, right? Okay, what's an opinion? What's fact? And there were some facts, some cold, hard facts in there that are just undeniable. It's like, oh, okay, so there was a compromise. Oh, that's why people say so and so and so and so are sellouts. Because there was a compromise made. It was supposed to be broad based economic empowerment. And instead, those who were already the black elite were classed as underprivileged, and they became economically. Oh, that's why X, Y, and Z are black billionaires like that, and are also all politically affiliated because it's all a part of that system. Right, right. And it informed the way that I approach my business now, and approach the application of the different skills that I learned all throughout from your Alex, from your Pratt, from your Naval, in terms of and so many more, in terms of, oh, this is how I take all the stuff that's here and apply it to my world. Because here's what my world is what that taught me. Oh, here's what my world is. Here's why I'm not. If you ever hear me talk, I always talk about bootstrapping. I always talk about staying the heck away from dirty money, staying away from um like I okay, I don't really care for the grant monies. I don't care for like there are many things I don't care for. Not to say that I won't, like, if opportunities come up. Like, when you know the game is rigged, then like, okay, let me participate and let me play, because I know that if I got like, if I know my competition is playing dirty, not necessarily dirty, but if I know my competition is playing dirty or not playing by the rules, or the rules are different than what you're told they are, then you can play by those rules. So yeah, I'd take a grant of X amount of 100,000, like this, that, the third. I definitely play part in that, or take part in that, but I will never, and this is what my message always is that I will never depend on that, and that will never be the make or break of any business that I go into. And I always try and pass the knowledge of how do you approach business in a way that those things are not the make or break of your business. How do you approach business in a way that you can practically fund the growth of your business through acquiring more customers? And those are the skills that I learned through these great men, and those are the skills that inform the way that I approach my current climate and navigating it. So, most important lessons that I learned from Saint Peter Blanche was what my terrain actually is. And all of these guys, Pat, Alex, Naval, talk about, and all other successful entrepreneurs, your Jeff, Elon, like all the hyper successful people, talk about pattern recognition, pattern duplication, pattern creation as the three skills that you need to get anything you want in life. And something that they all speak of that allows you to understand what it is that you have to acquire as a skill in your life is the people who do the best in life have the most accurate understanding of reality. They have the most accurate understanding of, oh, if I put this in, I get this out. They have clear input output equations for what they want out of life. There's a saying that the world punishes the vague ask and rewards the specific request. And so if you're like, I want to be rich, the world will punish you because you don't know what you want. But when you get very granular and specific about, okay, here's what I want my day to day to look like, and here's what I'm building towards, the world will tend to reward you. And we can help you too, because we know what you want and we know how we can help you. And so the skill you need to learn is what you want and how to let people know what you want to do, and who you want to do it for. That's business in a nutshell. It's you need to gather attention, point that attention in a direction, make a compelling offer, deliver on that offer, repeat. um, and so yeah, I hope this was a very helpful, practical video, and I hope it did something for someone. I hope it certainly did something for someone, because I know that the lessons that I got from this, that have done a lot for me and continue to do a lot for me. If you are a marketer in Port Elizabeth, if you do marketing related skills, photography, web development, graphic design, all that good stuff, then Legacy Africa, link is in the description down below. We are taking over Port Elizabeth. If you are not a marketer, but you did in fact enjoy the video, you may be an international. You know, I have guys uh, from all over the globe that I am in connection with, that I'm connected to, that we provide value to each other. So if you're one of those guys, thank you for watching. If you're anyone who took your time and watched this video and you're seeing, like, here's the thing, I don't believe anyone has ever seen a full length of any of my videos. So if you're here, bro, if you did in fact receive value from the video, please hit that subscribe button. um, Legacy Africa, links in the description. I've been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.